Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Yee. Hi, guys. I am pulling up chat on my phone. You know, I have that weird setup right now. So that way I can actually see you guys as you message. Dark Elf and Donnie, thank you for the subs. Yes, we have hit 22 months. We are 2 months away from 2 years. That's not exciting. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So this is gonna be a kind of irregular stream. So we're gonna swap over to the thing. Hold on. Let me get comfy. Okay. Okay. Hi guys. Hello, hello. Hello. There we go. Hi, 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 hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Yes, we got arms today. Yep, I made a pillow for it. Well, Shad made it for me. But Zach, thank you for the host. So, first off, we're gonna get some key points down before we start. This is gonna be what's called my Komfy Korner, and I wanted to do a little talk show, kind of, to try and bring some positivity back to the community. The community has some rough times every now and then, and there is just, and there isn't really. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you for the host. I gotta bring this up. Hold on. Boop. There we go. That way we can see you guys. I am. First off, let me be clear. I am not a professional. I am not under any means a professional. I don't replace a professional's experience knowledge. I do have a little bit of training in the medical field, but no degree to vouch for me for anything like that. So, this is just my feelings on what personally I have done for my own situations. And I just want to be able to give, some voice to everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Prophet Sir, thank you for the host. I appreciate it. But yeah, I want to be able to sit down and talk a little bit with people. Try and get some things figured out. Actual Stan, thank you. Thank you for the biddies. I appreciate it. So, when I made this post on Twitter, I think I made this post like maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that. I had quite a few people message me about handling depression and how to deal with, people who may have suicidal thoughts, suicidal tendencies, or how to deal with the pain of suicide. So we're going to talk kind of in stages, and I'm going to tell you my experience because I've gone through all 4 of those in some degree, shape, fashion, or form. And this is me being a little bit more real with you. Less Kyrie and more of the person behind Kyrie. Just so you understand that it comes from a place of love, that it comes from a place where I hope you can seek professional help if you are feeling sad or if you know someone who's sad, you can extend an arm out to them with a little bit of knowledge. The first being depression. Obviously, it's been a crazy year, and depression is a common thing with the lack of communication, the lack of real life socializing, and kind of being kept away from normal society. It's part of what we had to do to stay safe. I am introverted in nature to like some extent. Well, my hands, calm down. But it's not in for everyone kind of thing, right? So obviously there's people who are more extroverted. They get their love. Yeah, I have hand drinking. They get their love from others. And without that crutch there, I'll do this. Without that crutch there, a lot of people are feeling kind of lost, I guess. That lost feeling can lead to depression if not dealt with in an appropriate manner. I have been diagnosed as having major depression. I have episodes where I have a hard time actually coping with heavy issues. And coping is kind of like a generic term, I guess. We're gonna go like this. So maybe. Yeah, there we go. Nope, they haven't. So major depression is a clinical diagnosis of me being overwhelmed to the point of not being able to function in a normal manner. And it's something I take medicine for regularly. This is why my streams have started earlier in the days now, because I am on regular medication that must be taken a couple hours before I go to bed. Including its antidepressant meds. There is anxiety medication, and there is sleep-based medication that deals with stress. So one of the biggest problems I had was actually sleeping, or sleeping through the night, because I have a tendency to, when I am depressed, I have stress dreams. That stress dreams cause me to lock and grind my teeth. It makes me lock my jaw, which causes incredible pain when you're awake. I don't recommend it to anybody. I've had to sleep with mouth guards plenty of times before. It's not fun. So, but we're gonna start, and I'm gonna give you guys kind of the generic term on what depression is. And it's a mental health disorder. It is characterized by persistent depressed moods, or loss in interest in activities, and it causes a significant impact in your daily life. This can be biological, psychological, there could be social sources of distress, it alters your brain function. It messes with the circuitry in your brain. This persistent feeling of just sadness or loss, it characterizes major depression that leads to other behavioral and physical symptoms. So that's why I have major depression, because I am having additional symptoms that come in exchange with just not having depression, but it's causing me to lose interest in activities, which was a big one. I lost a lot of interest in hobbies for quite a while. It was also brought on by the loss of my dad, and I've been dealing with that for about 10 years. So I'll get into that in a few. That's gonna be a big jump in the topic. The major thing I want to touch on is depression. There is not generally a reason that is apparent on why you have depression. You could just be depressed. There could be something that affects you, a loss of a loved one, a loss of a friend, losing some kind of relationship, losing your favorite toy. There is no end. It could be, depression can be caused by anything, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just the way your brain functions. And I see a psychologist. I see them about once every 3 months now, because I'm on a better track. And we talk about how one of the things that I take care of is I have to be able to deal with stuff to a certain extent. Medicine can only help me get to a part, and that part has to be manageable. And once I hit the manageable part, that's where the meds need to stop, which is where I'm comfortable. I've been comfortable at this for probably about 8 months, 9 months now. So I'm at a comfortable spot where if something flares up, I know I can handle it. I may need some time to break away. I may need some time to de-stress. But I do have tools to kind of like help me. One of the things is, if you know, I love stuffed animals. You know, I love pillows. Obviously, I'm in my giant pillow fort because this is where I feel safe. You make a safe space, somewhere where you can go that you feel comfortable enough to work things out. And I work things out in my head. I have to be able to sit down. Hi, Shadow. I have to be able to sit down. I have to be able to rationalize it in whatever way, process it, and then I have to find a solution. And that's not the same for everybody. Like I'm saying, this is my experience. Sometimes I get depressed, but it's one of those things where I'm not sure if that's bad, that you need to talk to someone about it, or it's just a temporary thing that you gotta work things out on your own. So I am at this kind of point where I can usually manage stuff on my own without bringing others in. When it gets to a point that I feel I can't manage on my own, that's when I grab someone else to bounce ideas off of. Like, is this reasonable? Is it okay to feel this way? And my first choice is to go to Indy. You've heard that name a few times. That is my partner. I go to Indy. Indy is my rock. Indy has been my best friend for 2008. is when we met. So Indy has been my friend since 2009. So 11 years. Me and Indy know in and outs of each other. Yeah, it has been a long time. But Indy's the one I can go to and say, hey, I am feeling this way, like, because of this situation. I am depressed. I'm upset. So, for instance, some of you who are in my server may have seen that I just, like, up and canceled a couple streams this week. It was because I had a very, very bad anxiety attack on the weekend. And the anxiety would not calm down. It took 6 hours to calm down. And I mean, I'm in a full-blown panic mode, having trouble breathing. I'm taking extra medication to try and calm myself. It took quite a while. And the very next day, because of all that, I was physically exhausted. It took quite a bit of time for me to admit, even to Indy, hey, I had a really bad attack. And the attack was because I felt alone. Not because of anything normal. I just felt alone. And the reason is because I recharge different than most people. If you ever hear of people talk about how they're out of spoons, there's a theory out there. It's called spoon theory. You can look it up. The idea is every day you wake up with a certain set of spoons. And it's dependent on if you got a full night's sleep, you ate a healthy meal, did you drink a good number of water the day before, like, if you're physically healthy, and going forward is those spoons are your mental tax for the day. And different things cost different amount of spoons. So eating and preparing a proper meal may cost 3 spoons. Well, if you have only 15 spoons in the day, well, okay, a fifth of it's gone for one meal. Whereas, okay, you just pull yourself a bowl of cereal and go about your way. Okay, that's a spoon. So you kind of, it's a checks and balance kind of thing. Whereas, you know, getting out of bed is a spoon in itself if you've had a hard day. Alex, thank you for the host. Hello, welcome. So, when you're talking spoon theory, when you have a bad day, things start to cost a little bit more. Things like taking a shower may cost you 4 spoons. Things like trying to go outside to get some kind of chore done, like grocery shopping, that may cost more spoons. And you start to have to play this game of what is more important. At some point, those spoons start to become less and less available if you don't know how to recharge it properly. So everybody has different ways. And you'll hear people are talkative, some people are cuddly, and some people, it depends on, you know, their love language and stuff like that. But I recharge with physical love. I am physically needy. I need cuddles. I need head pats. I need hugs. I need time. You can say the word I love you as many times as you want. I will never believe it. Never. Because words cannot communicate to me like actions can. And so the reason I was feeling lonely lately is because I have no way to recharge. And that's kind of hit very heavily with COVID. And so that anxiety attack was brought on because I couldn't recharge. I had no spoons to start the day. I tried to do stuff. I failed at doing stuff. And it was because I was alone. And that's what led to that depression attack. And the very next day, I still had nothing left to give because that entire episode the night before was draining. And so I spent the entire next day taking care of myself. Kyrie, do you have pets? I do have pets, and I want to make note. I have 3 cats. You guys have heard of Delta. Obviously, Delta's the main one. You've heard her scream many a times. But I do have 2 other cats. One is called Anna or Anastasia. The other is Baggy or Bagheera. Each cat has a different function that they kind of help me with. So Bagheera is my social anxiety cat. He is constantly COVID prepared. He stays 6 feet apart, but he is constantly in the room. He is always around. You will always see him, but he's just kind of on the outside looking in. He's there to let you know he's there, and he doesn't like to be alone, just like I don't like to be alone. But he is there just to make sure, like, everything's okay. Delta is my protector from everything. From anything. And I mean, from other cats, sometimes from Indy, sometimes from roommates, sometimes from people just walking in to say hi. Delta is my protector. And she is also my anxiety kitty. Well, kind of stress. It's a little bit of both. Both her and Anna like to lay on my chest. Delta's just a little bit heavier. So she kind of feels like those stress blankets, those really heavy stress blankets. But I mean, Delta, when I was at my old computer stand, obviously we're in the process of moving my entire setup. Yeah, Delta always gets good pets. But before that, she would make a wall of her toys to, like, protect my computer. She would huddle behind it. Like, she was actually very defensive. She wouldn't let anybody get near me when I was by the computer. And especially if I had food, she would make sure that no one came by me to make sure I would eat. Like, she forcibly made sure I ate my food and no one interrupted me. So, Delta's a very, very special cat. Jamin, hello! Thank you for the sub. But each cat has its own purpose. Like, other than, of course, they're my spoiled, rotten babies. Anna's a good attention seeker. She's needy. But she's the lovey-dovey, affectionate one. She's the one that makes you feel loved when you need to feel loved. Unfortunately, that day specifically, and this was Saturday, I believe. Last Saturday. I was so out of spoons, I couldn't even cat. And I made that very, very clear to Indy. I'm like, I don't want to hear a cat. I don't want to see a cat. I need to be by myself. Like, I don't need you. I don't need roommate. I don't want to hear cats scream, like, for food. Like, you gotta take care of food. You gotta take care of medicine today. I just mentally can't do it. Alright, sit, hold on. Okay. So, like, there was that warning there. I couldn't cat. And usually Anna's pretty good about it. Like, even right now, she's laying on the opposite side of my setup in a basket. She just sleeps there. She just likes it. So, but yes, that day I couldn't handle it. And cats don't recharge the same way as if it was a human. Sorry, like, some people may be able to do that. They are my babies. I love them to death. I recharge with humans. Indy ain't a touchy-feely person. Don't touch my roommate to do it. And of course, my 2 boyfriends are on the other side of the world. So, when I need a hug, or I need to cuddle, or I just need some head pats, something, just to say I'm loved, it's kind of in short supply right now. And with that in mind, and then all of Delta's issues finally came crashing down. Delta was really sick right before this. So we got the final prognosis on Delta. So what we originally brought her in for was, we believe she had an allergy. She was irritated. Her skin was irritated. She was gnawing her fur away in certain areas. Basically around her belly, which means it's probably something she ate. And we fear she had an allergy and it was causing irritation. So we ended up taking her to the vet. Normal stuff didn't work. Steroid shot antibiotics didn't help. She is on the strongest antibiotic we can give her, and she has to take that daily. We give it to her before dinner time. And that started to help, but because she was fighting off this allergy, and to preface this, Delta was a shelter cat. Shelter cats get a lot of diseases because they're in close proximity to other cats who already have the disease. So I picked Delta up when she was 10 weeks old, which is the quickest you can get her. She already had an upper respiratory infection at the time when we picked her up, and I slept downstairs for several months taking care of Delta. She was on and off sick while she was a kitten, and she had been fine for a while, but she got a really serious upper respiratory infection. And that was brought on by this allergy. And so as she was trying to fight this allergy, another shelter virus kicked in, and it's feline herpes. Now, it's not the same as what you think of for humans. But it does cause lesions and stuff, and it does center itself much around the face, and so the upper respiratory infection triggered an onset of herpes, which we just learned she figured out. So she is fighting 3 different diseases at the same time. She is fighting this allergy, which, call it mama's intuition, mama gut, whatever. I think it's chicken. I think she's allergic to chicken. But she's fighting off this allergy. Oh, thank you, son. I appreciate it. But yeah, so she's fighting off this allergy. She then has this upper respiratory infection. And then on top of that, she's having to fight off, this other disease, this feline herpes. So she's had 3 diseases. She's fighting back to back. And I never told anybody. There was a time we thought she wouldn't make it. Because there was a time she was struggling so hard to breathe. She basically stopped moving around. And I mean, this is the cat that would fight the vet every chance she got. Because it wasn't because of her, it was because she was trying to protect me. She fought the vet. When we took her to the vet the very last time, to be like, this isn't working, something's going wrong, her nose is even worse, and da-da-da-da-da. I had to take a picture to send to Indy because she had no fight left in her. She was utterly defeated. And it broke my heart. And I saved that picture. And it wasn't till a couple days ago, on that Saturday, that I went to Delta for comfort after I got, partway through the day. I went to Delta for comfort, and she lets me lay on her stomach so I can hear her purr, and I just scratch her cheek. And she was purring, and that was the first time I heard her purr where there was nothing in her lungs. And I broke down. And I'll be honest, I'm trying to hold back tears right now. I broke down because my baby was finally getting better. And this has been a constant fight for probably, 3 months? Something like that. And it took a lot out of me. It took a lot. And it was finally a chance that I could look at Delta and not feel like I was a failure. That I had done everything I possibly could. We had her on the best medicine. We had her, in the best of care. There was nothing else we could do for her. And we hoped her immune system came through. And that was the first time that we had a positive outcome. That was the first time. I think all those feelings of doubt and insecurity mixed with the loneliness all came crashing down all at the same time. And that's when I had the attack. That attack lasted so long. And it started off with me crying on Delta. And Delta is such a good being, you would never know it. She will let me lay on her like a pillow, and as long as Mama's around, she's just happy. And I ended up going upstairs, and I ended up curling up with each of the cats because I knew I had been avoiding them that day. And it was really hard to convince myself that I was a good cat mom. Because some of you obviously know, like, the surgery I had just a little while ago was a hysterectomy. So no kids. I'm fairly young, but no kids. Never. And I never really wanted kids to begin with. But it kind of sinks in at some point that, okay, it really isn't going to happen. Like, you still kind of imagine, what it would be like. But I've always imagined it with fur babies. And so, my fur babies mean everything to me. Hell, we were just talking about getting a new fur baby. But, I joked about and said every time we thought about having a kid, we got a cat. And every time we got a cat, we realized, yep, cats are cheaper. But I hugged each of my cats that night, and I probably spent... Killjoy, thank you for the sabu. I appreciate it. But yeah, I probably spent another 4 hours after that just crying and sobbing. Mainly because I felt like a failure. So next day, spent it basically sleeping everything off. Fucked up my entire sleep schedule. Go figure. The second I get on an actual sleep schedule, it goes to hell. I did get my sippy. But then that Monday came around. For those of you who don't know, I don't have a Mama Vale or a Mom DM or anything like that who is very supportive. to put it into perspective, when I came out as being poly or polyamorous, for those of you who don't know, that means I fall in love with multiple people. I do have a partner that I'm married to, and I do have 2 wonderful boyfriends. But when I had my first partner and came out as being poly, she could not fathom it as anything other than me sleeping around and cheating. No matter how many times I told her my partner knew, my partner approved, my partner doesn't want that kind of relationship with me because that's not them. Like, it's fine. I'm good with what I have. Like, no, I'm cheating. Obviously, like, I'm cheating. Like, I didn't actually tell him. It took a lot, and it took a lot of time for me to convince her that this was something that everybody agreed to, that this was something everybody talked about, everything was out on the table. For those of you who know, I don't keep secrets. I think communication and honesty is one of the most important traits to have. And it's one of those things that I hope that, you know, if anything you get from me, it's communication skills. But I don't usually go a week or 2 without sending a text to my mom. If I'm sick, I send her a text. If I'm feeling okay, I call her. The texts I can ignore usually. But I'm going to grab my phone, and so I'm not going to be able to see things. Yeah, it is. So I need to put this into perspective because I had told my mom a couple different things before this. I talked about how I had been having some rough times with depression, my anxiety cropping up. I had talked about how the surgery is kind of messing with my head a little bit. I talked about how troubled I was about Delta, and she knows about my love of animals. And then I kind of explained Indy's transformation a little bit. And just to be blatantly clear, Indy, if I say transformation, it means Indy is trans. But yes, I had explained she doesn't really understand this whole trans thing. So she has been asking questions on occasion when she doesn't get something. But this was, you know, well over a week ago. And most recently I talked to her about my worries with Delta. That's it. So when I messaged her, I said, hey, I'm having a rough weekend, bad breakdown, still trying to recover. This is Monday, alright? This is Monday. She says, I'm sorry, can I do anything? I'm like, I honestly don't know. I said, Anna, the loving kitty, is helping me relax in bed. Delta helped this morning when I woke up early. Like, I got maybe 3 hours of sleep. And I haven't been able to sleep since. She says, what's going on? Is this all about the change with Indy? And instantly, I became infuriated. And it's because I know what the stab was. Because I felt it when she stabbed for when I was being poly. she was being transphobic. And I said, no. And I'm kind of sad you jumped to conclusions like that. I said, I apologize for mentioning it. And I tried to detach myself from the situation. She says, no, I'm glad you did. Please don't be upset. I just think it's a lot to go through. You gotta understand. I just found out, even though you've been dealing with this longer. I didn't mean anything by it. Promise. But what's making you melt down and depressed? I'm worried about you. That's all. I want to help. Which is very nice. It's very sincere and stuff like that. But I'm still of the opinion that I'm offended from beforehand. Because you just kind of stabbed my partner. Like, you tried to use my partner against me. Like, you can't play it off that easy. My mom is really passive aggressive. And so me not being in a good frame of mind added to this. And it says, you jumped to a conclusion and blamed Denny. All I said was I've been having bad breakdowns. I don't have the mental capacity to explain how beat down I am, and I am heartbroken that I even had to write that text. She then starts messaging me and has then turned everything around on me, saying it's my fault that I was offended. That she didn't blame Indy. She was just asking a question. That she's not attacking me. I just took it the wrong way. I try again to try and distance myself from this conversation. She says, I didn't say, it was Indy's fault or anything. I'm going off of information you told me before. So she's picking, a conversation 2 weeks ago versus the conversation a week ago we had about Delta. So it's starting to come off very passive aggressively. She says it wasn't an accusation, it was a question. I'm sorry I offended you. What did I do wrong? I didn't assume. I asked a question. And it leads me to blowing up on her, basically. I had no spoons left, so the only outlet I had was anger. And I did blow up on her. And she's like, I'm sorry I upset you. You don't want to hear I'm sorry. So please let me know if I can help. I had to sit down with Indy to make sure it was the same kind of feelings that I was getting translated well enough. Because when I'm that down in the dirt, I need someone else to back me up. And that's why I say, like, if you can't handle it on your own, definitely go and get someone you trust to help you. Indy is my rock. So when I showed Indy all of the messages. And Indy helped me form a coherent statement to kind of end the conversation. And it says, when you actually apologize, I'll hear it. Because she never apologized for what she said. She only apologized for how I felt towards it. And it says, you have learned the art of deflection and microaggression well. When you say, I'm sorry I offended you, it actually means I'm sorry you were hurt by what I said. You're not actually sorry you said it. I truly regret trying to tell you I was in a bad headspace because you made it worse. The reason I'm even typing this is because Indy hopes that there is some good intent in your words. I wanted to block you, and in all my years, I've never felt my blood boil. And this is toxic. And that was kind of my line in the sand. That if this doesn't stop, then I was about to lose my mother. I would have blocked her in a heartbeat. Because family means a lot to me. But my family is not blood. blood of the covenant is thicker than water of the womb. Is the true statement. And blood is the people I pick. And so Alex is my family. Ren is my family. Insane is my family. Charlie is my family. Like, I have picked my family. And it's from people who actually love and support and care about me, and who don't want me to be upset, who don't want me to be depressed, who want me to be happy, who want me to be fulfilled. So I do turn to them for help when I need to. Which gets on to my next point, which is Maggie. Thank you for the host. I appreciate it. Here, let me catch up on some of your guys' messages. No, I'm fairly sure. I know most of my feelings because I sit down. Even if it takes hours, I will sit down and I will figure it out. Like, I will go through my head. Oh, I'm sorry you couldn't sleep. I have sleepy time music on, and I have a pillow fort. There's probably a pillow or two in here. But yeah, so we are coming up very, very close to my 2-year anniversary, right? Which actually means it took 6 months to make my model with Charlie. Because Vroid was the only option at the time, so we were trying to make something that fit my feeling. Obviously, like, Pinkie Pie is a huge inspiration. 02 is a huge inspiration for me. But yeah, it was a long time coming. Charlie did lots of great things for me. But she reached out to me when I was suicidal. And I don't tell this to people much because it was a really, really dark time in my life. I was forced to work a job that I hated with every fiber of my being. And I mean, my life was in danger at this job. I hated the people that ran the place. They had no respect for us. They were very sexist. I would cry. I had to work night shift. I would cry every night before I had to leave to work, begging Indy to let me stay home. To let me just call in. To not go in. Because I was so miserable. And after an amount of time, I had a friend who had a car accident and she died. And it all kind of accumulated to this point of I had my car accident afterwards. And this is when I started getting all these diseases. This is when I was told I had an early onset of degenerative disc disease, which runs on both sides of my family. I knew I was going to get it. Didn't think it was going to be for another 20 years. I was diagnosed in my 20s. This is something that there is no repairing. I then got obviously the major depression a little bit later. I had the POTS, I had the autoimmune disease, but getting the degenerative disc disease, the pain in my back, that was so great. I went to a spine care center Had to fight for 2 MRIs. They found one herniated disc and 2 bulging discs. And what they did was they pumped my spine with steroids. They gave me 3 shots and then kicked me out and said, "We're done with you." And I was still in so much pain, I was crying. I couldn't function. I couldn't work my normal job. And I had a partner that didn't believe the amount of pain I was in. And to be honest, it wasn't till about maybe 4 or 5 months ago that they actually finally believed how much pain I was in. And that's because they pulled a muscle in their back. So it's... Yep, they just kicked me out. It is different when you're young and you're coming up with spine problems. They expect you, if you're older, you're gonna have spine problems. They diagnosed me with degenerative disc disease, but they're like, yeah, she's got 20 years before we can really do anything. I had a neurologist look at me, and they're just like, they should have treated you better. You should just do physical therapy. I did a couple months of physical therapy and nothing helped. Because this is a progressive disease. There is ways that I have learned to deal with some of it, but I didn't know back then. This is a progressive thing I've had to learn over the years. I can't bend this way. I can't bend that way. I can't do this task. I can only do this task for this long. I can only sit for this long. I can only lay in this position like this. Like, there's little things that you take for granted that you don't realize. And when I first got diagnosed and I got kicked out and I couldn't work a job, and my partner was telling me I needed to get up and go to work, and I physically couldn't. And there's no way to explain how much pain you're in. And I was one of those people who grew up watching parents take pills after pills after pills for all these different things. And I was just like, I'm not even going to touch a Tylenol, like, unless I really have to. So I'm just sitting here crying and in pain. And it wasn't until one day I had a thought go through my head. And so, trigger warning, I'm about to tell you, my suicidal thought, okay? And I had it planned out. I did. This is your trigger warning. You don't want to hear, mute me, go somewhere else for a little bit, whatever that may be. But last call, trigger warning. I woke up out of bed one day and couldn't move. And I was left a note saying I needed to get these chores done. And I could not bend to get out of the bed. And I always get the suggestion, oh, well, you should just take a hot shower. That will fix it. And I thought to myself, well, if I go in the shower, I'm just gonna slit my wrists. I'll just take the razor with me. I'll slit my wrists, and that way, there won't be any cleanup. There won't be any worries left. I still have my job at that time. I'm like, at least, my partner will get some money. Like, I don't need to be a burden. And as I was thinking this, Indy came home and saw a look on my face and said what was wrong. And it made me snap out of it. Just long enough to start crying. And I said, like, I'm gasping for breath. I am sobbing as I realized what I was thinking. And I just cried and said, I need help. And I told Indy I'm suicidal. I'm thinking about slitting my wrist in the shower. I was on my way to do that. Please get me help. And Indy hugged me. And Indy was bawling. And it was a very rough day. We didn't know what to do. The very next day, me and Indy wouldn't leave me alone that day. Indy was not going to leave me alone. Indy was very afraid that if I was left alone, I was going to go through with it. The very next day, we found, and this is for anybody in the USA, there is free mental health care clinics all over the place. And there's ultimately other resources available in different countries. You just gotta do some Googling and stuff. But we found the free mental health clinic that was in my area. And I went and got seen. That's where I got diagnosed with major depression and anxiety. And they wanted to try therapy and they wanted me to see a psychologist. The therapy appointment just brought up one big thing, and I said I wouldn't go back to therapy again. Which is, they brought up my dad. And I want you guys to understand why I'm here before I move on to the next point. They couldn't really do that where I'm at, Dark Elf. But I did seek help. So I think that's part of the reason why they didn't have me on a psychiatric hold. But yeah. So before I go into my dad, I wanted to say the reason I am actually here is because when I was dealing with this, getting my psychologist in order, getting my therapy in line, starting to take medicine, and having to change and readjust and redo, and it put me through up and down spirals I couldn't even imagine. Charlie reached out to me, and I've known Charlie at that time for about 4 years. 3-4 years, somewhere around there. And Charlie reached out and said, I want you to come do this thing with me. I cannot offer you help in the way that maybe some others can, but I can make you this thing to start streaming. And I think that would be a good outlet for you to bring some positivity back into your life, because she knows I like to dot on people. That she knows I like to love on others. And so she said she would make me a model. Charlie reached out to me in one of my darkest times. And this is why you will never, ever, ever, ever have me leave Charlie. Charlie is my sister through thick and thin. Charlie reached out to me in my darkest time, in my time of need. And she offered me a way to try and be happy, to try and meet others, to try and, use my love of games to make others happy as well. And now I'm hopefully trying to pass on my experiences so others can kind of learn from them. My love of gaming comes from my dad, though. I'm a daddy's girl. I look just like my dad. I grew up with my dad. My dad is the one who I still have the manuals for, and DK brought this up the other day. Banjo-Kazooie is one of my favorite games. And it's because there's a lot of memories. It's going to be hard to play. Because Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64 were the first two games we had in our household besides an Atari. My dad wouldn't let me touch the 64, but I could help with the guidebook. And I remember countless nights sitting on the bed with my dad watching him play Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64, and me as a little kid. I mean, you imagine Gremlin Kyrie in the most gremlin-y of forms, just screaming at an adult male that he's playing the game wrong because he's doing the stars out of order. Just imagine that. Just imagine that for a second. Little tiny gremlin Kyrie yelling at a big person. My dad wasn't little. My dad was not a little person. I mean, he was easily 6'2". He was kind of muscly, like little tiny girl just yelling at him on a bed, throwing a book on it, saying you're doing shit out of order. And just to be aware, I actually did say shit just because I was the first kid in the family, and so when they didn't know what to call me, they called me little shit, so my first word was shit. Yep. They learned very quickly not to do that with the second child. Carve! So, like I was saying, I'm daddy's baby girl. I love my daddy. I still love my daddy. My daddy's not here anymore. He died when I was 20. He died by suicide. And I hate to say it as bluntly as I can, but he did. And that was my first experience with suicide, was I lost my dad. And that day my world kind of ended. It was hard to think of much else. He was on and off sick for a long time. And so when I got the call that he was on the way to the hospital, I thought he had taken another fall. My dad was in his 40s. He wasn't old by any means. My parents had me when they were young. So when I say I lost him at 20, I mean he was 44. And I got the normal call of, hey, your dad's heading to the hospital. And I thought everything's gonna be okay. And I just went to work that day. And about 2 hours later, I see Indy, who is my best friend at the time, walk up to the store, and I'm like, hey, what's wrong? Like, what are you doing here? This isn't a usual thing. Like, you don't usually see me. Plus, my uncle and I are still young. He and my dad were close, almost like brothers. It's devastated to the point where he turned to drugs. He went to rehab, but the scars remain. They do. They do remain. But when Indy walked up at that time, there was a face, and I knew something was wrong. And he says, "You're gonna have to come. You gotta leave." And I was confused, and I'm like, "What do you mean you gotta leave?" He's like, "I just got a call from your mother because she can't get you on the phone. It doesn't look like your dad's gonna make it. He's on life support right now." And I broke down crying. Like, I had to call my boss. Someone had to fill my spot, and I had to leave. That night, I had to take a plane flight out to California. And the very next day, they did the last test on my father to see if he had any kind of brain activity. And they were hoping he could breathe on his own. None of that happened. That night, we had to make the choice to take him off life support. And I did not want to be in that room. And I still regret giving to my mom that day. Because I had to hear him pass away. And it wasn't like the breathing, it wasn't that. I remember hearing the heart monitor. And that was the most difficult noise I could ever hear. Hearing that heart monitor slowly fade, and right before it stopped, they would shut it off so it wouldn't start screaming. And that's the one memory I have left of my dad's last time, is that sound, because I couldn't look at him. We found out later, and this was much, much later. I blamed my grandparents for a long time because they were forcing him to do a lot of work in very, very hot weather. And I thought he had heat stroke that turned fatal. And then my mom came clean and said he had tried to commit suicide once or twice before, and she had always stopped it. That time when she called for paramedics, when she dialed 911, she was scooping pills out of his mouth and foam out of his mouth so the ambulance workers wouldn't know. My dad committed suicide because he couldn't handle pain anymore. Hi, Gino. Sorry you came in at a very rough moment. The reason my dad was in so much pain is because of the same disease I have now. The degenerative disc disease. The only way they could try to stop the pain for that disease is to fuse those areas of the spine. I have it in the same spot, one of the same spots as my dad does. I have it in 3 separate areas in my back. My dad only had it in his lower back. I have it in my lower back, just below my shoulder blades, and in my neck. My mom has it in her neck. So, like, I was gonna get it. There is no way I wasn't gonna get it. But they fused his spine, and that fusion was the worst thing he had ever done. And he spent the next few years in constant pain. I mean, he was taking as much pain medicine as he could, to the point that he was falling asleep sitting. It changed him. He was aggressive. He was argumentative. He became a different person. And at some point, he decided they're better off without me. He didn't leave a note behind. He didn't leave anything. I couldn't even stay in his house. After he had passed, I went to my grandparents' house instead, because I couldn't be in the same place he was in. It broke my heart. Beyond all doubts, it broke my heart. And I wish he was here now to say that there is a better way. That there is other ways that this is more acceptable. That a suicide is not an answer. And I only learned that after getting those thoughts into my head. That it's better to not be in that terrible, terrible place. To not go through with those bad thoughts. That you're gonna leave more people behind hurt than you think you're helping. And if you ever meet someone that is suicidal, there is steps you can take. Ash, thank you for the follow. Obviously, like, I'm not a professional. Like, I've been saying that all stream. But what I want is for people to know what to do. And the first thing you're gonna do is, someone is saying they're gonna hurt themselves. If someone is saying they feel these thoughts, I want you to call this number. Like, we're gonna put this bold face. This is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I don't care if you gotta make a note. I don't care if you gotta look it up. Yeah, random. I agree. But for some people, that's hard for them to understand. So I want people to know. I want people to understand. But these people are trained. These people do know. These people do understand. And they're there to help you through your immediate crisis. If you are feeling suicidal, if you are feeling like those dark thoughts are getting to you and you want to do something, or if you know someone that is feeling this way, this is a number. They can help you talk through it with them. They have a text line. If you don't feel comfortable talking to someone, there's a text line. You can Google that. there is specialized ones for every area. This is a national one. This is for America. But every single country has one. You can find one anywhere. All it takes is a call, a text. If you know someone who feels like they are gonna hurt themselves, please, I beg of you, call this number. And then, if it's getting more drastic, if you are nearby, go see them. Don't hesitate, go see them. Go check on them. If you're not nearby, you can call a welfare check. Yeah. Yep, I talked about I had my own suicidal moments a while back, and then I, of course, experienced losing my dad. So I have both experiences. It is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. I wish it on no one, and I fight the fight every single day. But goddamn, am I gonna keep fighting it for as long as I can. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have met you guys. I wouldn't have been so invested in a community that is so filled with love and care and support for each other. I want to be one of those people that helps. I can't help a lot, but if I could give you a number, I could give you a number. If I could be someone you could vent to me. Talk to me. Like, I don't usually have my DMs open, but I have mods in my server. You can come to my server. You can ask them to talk to me. I am always going to be there. And I think that's something everybody needs to know, is there is someone out there who needs you. Whether you know them now or you will know them, someone needs you. And you gotta put in an effort. You gotta be willing to fight that fight. And that's what the friends are there for. Friends, you need to tell them that you need them. You need to tell them you're gonna hurt more if they leave than anything. Call on them, check on them, text them daily. Whatever you need to do to make sure that happens, make sure it happens. Don't let them go until they say, I don't have that feeling anymore. Make sure they get help. Make sure they see a therapist. Make sure they find a professional. I hope it reaches someone. That's why I share this. It hurts as hell to bring up my dad. It hurts more to bring up my dad than it does to bring up my own situation. And that's because I'm still fighting, but it's still a success. I will never know what my dad could have been. My dad was not able to walk me down the aisle or to see me graduate from college. He wouldn't have met all my amazing fur babies. He wouldn't have seen the woman I became today. And God knows he would have rolled on the ground laughing as hard as he could, knowing that I'm making people happy by playing games. The one thing we had that we loved so much, And that he gave me so much love for was video games. And to be able to play that and to make someone so happy. I cannot thank him enough, and I wish he was here to see that. So please reach out, find the help you need. Not everybody's help is gonna be the same. But if you do have a friend who is like this, there's ways to get them help. If you are like this, there's ways to get yourself help. I fight every day, and if I can fight, you can fight. No matter what. So if you want to ask any more questions, you feel free. I spent an hour more talking about this than I thought I was, 'cause I ramble. I will sippy. I promise. I love all of you guys too. So please don't ever feel like you are alone, okay? Alright. So, if your friend's in trouble, what are we gonna do? We are going to find them help in some way or form. You can call Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They will give you more specific help. You can call them, you can check on them, make sure they're not in immediate danger. You can request a welfare check from police. Police can go and actually check their residence. But after that, it will be a process. My battle does not stop because I am in constant pain. I am fighting this fight that my dad lost. I'm gonna keep fighting. And I'm gonna prove, whenever I see him again, that he didn't have to go out like that. That there was still so much more he missed out on. And so, you guys are stuck with me for quite a while. But if I could give back when I was at my lowest, and give back all that happiness that was thrust upon me, that is my ultimate goal in life. And I've said it before, I do this, not for the money, not for, fame, for glory. I do this because I hope I make someone happy. I hope that I can make someone smile or laugh or giggle. And so, I think, kind of round out Komfy Korner, huh? A little less comfy than normal, but I think we needed the pillows. Had to probably cry in them a little bit. So, I don't plan to end this on bad notes. That is not my plan. It's not going to be a plan. I hope it's never a plan. So we're gonna actually do a little bit of gaming to kind of make that happen. I'm gonna swap to BRB screen. Well, you know what? No, I'm gonna play you a video. How about some solar system disco? We could do that, right? We'll do solar system disco. I'll be right back, and then we will play some Genshin because it is Sunday, so we got some grinding to do before. Apparently there was some event going on and I didn't know, and I haven't been playing. So we'll play catch up, okay? And that'll give me a chance to wipe away all these tears, for you guys to wipe away all those tears, and we could go farming. Alright? So I'll be back in just a few.